in 2012, roughly fiscal year. We hit a bottom and then have been working our way back up to the combined total you see there for last fiscal year of 61 million. The 97 HERF bond program, so these projects were approved by voter proposition. Voters approved a $350 million package of road improvements. It was shared with the county, cities, and towns. The idea was to increase mobility and reduce congestion. So over the decades, we've been working on delivering those projects. $287 million of HERF bonds have been sold, over 250 lane miles of capacity improvements and 90 safety projects completed. Average lane miles were doubled in that time frame and congestion reduced by 43%. So in delivering those projects and selling bonds, we had incurred debt we had to pay. So just like our home mortgage, you take out a loan and you have to make that mortgage payment on a monthly basis. We've been paying off debt on that. So for the current fiscal year that we're in, the debt service payment is $18.8 million. When you look at that relative to the budgeted operating expenses of the department, it totals 27% of the operating expenses of the department. And then over the time since 1997 until June of 2018, the county has repaid $295 million in principal and interest on that debt, which represents 27% of the HERF allocation that we've received goes to the debt service over that time frame. Just giving you a sense as to where we are with debt service payments. So we are right in here, 19. So the tall line is principal, the shorter line is interest. So when you combine that, that gives you the $18.8 million. So the good news is that we're heading towards a significant decrease in the debt service amount that we have to pay. So by the fiscal year that ends in June of 2023, our debt payment, annual debt payment, will be $6 million less than it currently is. And as we keep moving out in years, we're going to see that drop. So 10 years from now, it'll be 12 million less. 15 years, it'll be 15 million less. So the department has committed to take the reductions in debt service and put those towards road repair, along with the natural growth that we see in highway user revenue funds that we receive on an annual basis, and they continue to engage in department efficiencies. And the idea there is to provide the best quality service they can for the lowest cost. So those efforts are paying off. Honorable Olivares, our transportation director, is going to talk to you about budget, and you'll see the fruits of that work that they've been doing in terms of monies available for fiscal year 19 for performing road repair. The 97 bond program has some life still left in it. In going forward, there's $62.4 million of HERF bonds that have not been sold. That is largely allocated to the city of Tucson. So the city has some large projects that they will be advancing where we've committed highway user revenue bond funds to. Those mostly are in the form of intergovernmental agreements. So we've committed to the city by agreement that those funds will be available to them as they need them to deliver those projects. And we cannot unilaterally change that. The county can't say we're going to take money from this project in the city and move it to repairing roads or any other project in unincorporated Pima County. The county still has some projects to deliver. So Kinney Road, Kinney and Bop is a project. Kolb Road is another one. And there are 13 safety improvement projects that are currently being advanced. In addition to that, year 2 of the $16 million bond reallocation for road repair will be completed in fiscal year 20. So you may recall we brought to this committee for your input and consideration a proposal to take 16 millions of unnecessary, unneeded project funds and to move them to road repair. So the department has been delivering on that, and we'll continue to do so. The county administrator has written a memorandum to the Board of Supervisors recommending that the remaining improvements and safety projects proceed. In other words, that we do not halt or discontinue those projects and shift funding to road repair. And he's also indicated that if there are unused funds at the completion of those projects, that those funds be allocated to additional safety projects, that money not go into road repair is his recommendation to the board. With that, I'm able to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from Howard?
Yes, Al?
Yeah, I have a question. On your slide, you said that the state gas tax hasn't been raised in 18 years. They would put it in the year 2000. But Mr. Huckleberry's memo cites it hasn't been changed since 1991. So which date is correct, 91 or 2000?
As usual, Mr. Huckleberry is right, so that's a typo on my part. That should have been 28 years.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Carmine, you mentioned the initiative by the state to add a license fee that would perhaps offset any future sweeps, but I'm understanding there may be some legislation that's working its way into the legislature to try and undo that $32 fee. Do we have any updates on that?
So it's been suggested, I may ask Nathan Barrett or Michael Rossi. Michael Rossi is lobbyist, county lobbyist who interacts with the state legislature daily these days. So either of them can probably speak to that. So if we can hold that for a moment, and
sure.
I'll answer any other questions and then invite either of these gentlemen to speak to that.
But it is a true statement that there are no unallocated funds that are left over from the DLT or from HERF. Is that a true statement?
So that's correct. So those activities that I showed you, those dollars go into funding the operation of the Department of Transportation and delivering services to operate and maintain the roadway network.
And can that be changed? And if so, who would make a decision to make a change to the way that those funds are being spent? Is it possible to change them? I'm just asking.
So the amount of money that the county receives is dependent on the state formula. So that can be changed